Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to another edition of our Explainer, where we take fascinating data and turn it into something you can actually visualize and understand. Today, we're going on a rapid-fire journey across the map to uncover 30 of the absolute most bizarre, mind-bending United States geography facts. We're talking the weirdest borders, the most extreme climates, and the kind of geographical anomalies that will literally change the way you look at a map forever.
So I've got a question for you to start things off. Think you really know the map of the United States? I mean, most of us picture nice, neat lines, right? 50 distinct puzzle pieces fitting perfectly together, a pretty straightforward climate from coast to coast. But geography is never that simple. It's messy, it's packed with historic accidents, and quite frankly, it's full of surprises that defy all logic. Prepare to have your assumptions completely subverted.
Section 1. Bizarre Borders and Exclaves. The map's messy mistakes. It's honestly amazing just how inconvenient a border can be for the people actually living there. Take Minnesota's northwest angle, right at the very top of the state. It's completely cut off by a lake. To get there by land, you literally have to drive into Canada and then cross back down into the US. Even the local kids commute through another country just to get to school. Then you've got the Kentucky Bend, affectionately known as Bubble Land. It's this bizarre little oval of land entirely trapped by the Mississippi River. The dozen or so residents there can only reach the rest of Kentucky by driving down through Tennessee. They even have to use Tennessee mailing addresses. Washington State has a super similar issue with Point Roberts, this little peninsula hanging off Canada's British Columbia. It's U.S. soil, but totally isolated below the Canadian border. You have to drive down from Canada just to get there. And finally, a complete geometric anomaly, the top of Delaware. Most borders follow rivers or straight lines, right? Well, Delaware has a perfectly round, curved border known as the 12-mile circle. It was drawn with a 12-mile radius straight out from a courthouse in Newcastle.
Now here's a classic geographic rivalry for you. Liberty Island, the famous home of the Statue of Liberty, is officially New York land. But, and it's a big but, it is floating squarely inside New Jersey's waters. Because you actually cross the state line on the ferry ride over, both states lay claim to the landmark in totally different ways. It's caused some pretty hilarious friendly quarrels over the years about who exactly gets to feature the iconic statue on their state quarters and license plates.
If you think the coasts are crowded, wait until you check out the middle of the map. Tennessee and Missouri are actually tied for having the most neighboring states in the entire country. They both touch 8 different states. Tennessee is completely boxed in by a massive wall of neighbors: Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Missouri. Meanwhile, Missouri is touching an equally massive list: Iowa, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska. It is just incredibly packed right there in the center.
Okay, so the absolutely crucial point here is that borders aren't just lines on land. They're lines in the water, and get this, they are lines in time. There are 2 tiny islands sitting right in the water between Alaska and Russia, and they are separated by just 2.5 miles. You can literally stand in the USA and look across the water at another country. But the wildest part, the international date line runs right between them. So when you look at that Russian island, you aren't just looking at another country, you are looking almost an entire day into the future.
Section 2. Mind-boggling size and scale. Stretching the limits.
Quick trivia. If I asked you which U.S. state is closest to the continent of Africa, what would you say? Florida, right? That makes sense. It's way down there in the south, stretching out into the Atlantic. But the truth is, it's actually Maine. I know, I couldn't believe this either. But a tiny part of Maine sticks out so incredibly far east into the ocean that if you drew a straight horizontal line east, you'd hit Morocco way faster than if you started a trip from Florida.
Let's just keep dismantling those assumptions. We just ruled out Florida for being closest to Africa. But surely Florida is the southernmost point of the U.S., right? Wrong again. Florida goes pretty far south for sure, but way out on Hawaii's Big Island, there's a place called Kalalea. Kalalea holds the actual official title for the southernmost point in the entire USA, putting it closer to the equator than any other state in the country.
Now I want you to just take a second and think about this number. 420. This is the perfect illustration of the insane disparity in size between American states. Rhode Island is our smallest state, and Alaska is our absolute largest. You could take the entire state of Rhode Island and drop it inside Alaska's borders over 420 times. That's just a completely different scale.
Section 3. Wild water and coastlines. Oceans, lakes, and dry spells.
There is a shockingly massive disparity in natural lake counts across the country. Let's look at Maryland. 0. Every single lake you find in Maryland was made by people.
either through dams or digging. It's the only state like that. Then you have the absolutely massive state of Texas. Despite its giant size, it only has one naturally formed lake of any real significance, Cat Lake, which it actually has to share with Louisiana. Almost all other Texas lakes are man-made reservoirs. And then, well, there's Alaska. Over 3 million lakes. 3 million! From small tundra ponds to massive bodies of water. If you visited one Alaskan lake every single day, it would take you literally thousands of years to see them all.
And while Alaska definitely has the numbers, the Great Lakes have the sheer volume. Lake Superior is the largest Great Lake by volume, and its size is, honestly, almost terrifying. Lake Superior holds so much water that if you completely emptied it out, it could cover the entire continents of North and South America under 1 full foot of water. Just try to visualize that much water sitting in one single lake. Unsurprisingly, Alaska dominates the water records yet again when we hit the ocean. The general Alaskan coastline is roughly 6,640 miles long. But if you count every single nook, cranny, bay, and tiny inlet, it explodes to over 33,000 miles. To put that firmly into perspective, Alaska boasts more seaside coastline than the other 49 states combined.
But here's a super fun bit of irony to wrap up our water section. Wyoming is completely, utterly landlocked, 0 miles of ocean coastline, and yet, this dry, mountainous state contains over 30 named islands. You can find dozens of these little islands sitting right inside Yellowstone Lake and Jackson Lake. It just goes to show you really don't need a seacoast to have your very own island getaways.
Section 4. Crazy climate and nature. From flatlands to volcanoes.
It's so easy to forget, but the United States is a geographic anomaly in the truest sense of the word. It is capable of housing literally every kind of climate on planet Earth. You don't even need a passport to see the world's biomes. We've got lush tropical rainforests over in Hawaii, freezing, punishing tundras up in Alaska, scorching deserts, dense, rainy forests, and massive rolling prairies. You name the global climate, the U.S. map has absolutely got it covered.
But let's zoom in on one specific, famous landscape, Kansas. People always joke that Kansas is as flat as a pancake. Well, scientists actually took that as a challenge and tested it. They mathematically compared the surface of an actual pancake to the topography of Kansas. The result? No joke, Kansas is actually smoother and flatter than your breakfast food. Obviously, it isn't perfectly flat everywhere, but when you zoom out to scale, Kansas easily beats the pancake.
Now consider the wild distribution of the approximately 170 active volcanoes in the U.S. You probably think of Hawaii or maybe the Pacific Northwest when you hear the word volcano. But Alaska is the undisputed volcano champion. About 130 of them are located in Alaska, mostly along the Aleutian Islands, erupting out in the remote wilderness. Compare that to just 40 in the entire rest of the country.
Let's rapid fire through some of nature's weirdest paradoxes. First up, it actually snows in Hawaii. Down at the beach, surfers are catching warm waves, but up on massive volcanoes like Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, the peaks are often bright white with winter snow. Now let's flip that entirely. Up in the freezing Arctic of Alaska, the Quebec Valley National Park features massive sand dunes up to 100 feet tall. It's like a slice of the Sahara Desert just dropped right into the snow. Over in California, a secret redwood tree named Hyperion stands a staggering 116 meters tall, totally dwarfing the Statue of Liberty. And finally, not too far away from that towering height is California's Death Valley, a scorching desert depression sitting 282 feet below sea level. If you somehow piped water in from the ocean, it would rush inland and completely fill that basin up.
Section 5. Quirky human geography. People, places, and peculiarities.
We talked about scale earlier with millions of lakes and towering trees, but let's consider the number 1. That is the entire population of the incorporated town of Monowi, Nebraska. Just one single person. A lady named Elsie lives there, and she acts as the town's mayor, the town librarian, and the town bartender, all by herself. When tax season rolls around, she literally pays town taxes entirely to herself. How crazy is that?
The utter absurdity of these human oddities just keeps coming. Take the Haskell Free Library. It sits literally right on the line between Vermont and Quebec. There's a line painted on the floor. You can enter from the US and leave through Canada. Then we have Hawaii. It's an island in the middle of the ocean, yet it has interstate highways. They obviously don't leave the state, they just exist for federal funding. Meanwhile, the massive state of Wyoming only has 2 public escalators in the entire state, and they are both inside banks in the city of Casper. Over in Vermont, the tiny capital city of Montpelier is the only U.S. capital without a single McDonald's restaurant. Down in Arkansas, you've got the Craters of Diamond State Park, the only public diamond mine in the world where you can literally just dig in the dirt and keep whatever you find. And finally, if you head to South Dakota, you'll find the human geography is wildly outnumbered. There are roughly 4 cows for every 1 person living in the state.
Okay, so we've covered isolated bubbles of land, time-traveling islands, 3 million lakes, pancake flat states, and a town of exactly 1 person. The map of the United States is anything but ordinary. So I leave you with this. What other geographical secrets are hiding right in your own backyard? Pull up a map of your own state, zoom in on those strange borders, and see what bizarre facts you can discover. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.